Welcome to the Bonded Podcast Foundation Series, hosted by Dr. Patty and Lizzie Shutt,
where we explore attachment healing and the bonds that shape us as children, as adults, and as parents.
We talk about the joy, the complexity, and the challenges that come with forming deep human connection.
From before conception through early childhood and far beyond.
Whether you're expecting, adopting, navigating loss, or supporting someone you love,
or simply wanting to better understand yourself and the ways your early experiences still impact you today,
these conversations are for you.
The podcast isn't just about raising secure children.
It's about healing ourselves, breaking generational cycles, and creating relationships rooted in safety, trust, and authenticity.
You'll hear from experts and parents alike on topics like fertility and perinatal loss,
adoption, returning to work,
temperaments, identity shifts,
and the emotional realities that often go unspoken.
So settle in,
take a breath,
and know that wherever you are on this journey, you're not alone.
You are not alone. Welcome to the Bonded Podcast. So excited to have you on, and I'm really excited because I've never encountered a veterinary social worker before. So this is just like it. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And so many of our clients have relationships with animals. And yeah, the veterinary career itself needs support in many ways. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, you're awesome. I want to see how we can connect with you more and share your wisdom and insight. So excited to chat with you today.
Yeah. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. So being that it is such a niche field, what inspired you to get into veterinary social work, and like what did that path look like?
And what is it, by the way?
So, such great questions. So veterinary and social work is something that I really just fell into. I'm a huge believer of life is going to find a way. And I let life guide me to where I'm supposed to be going. And truly everything aligned for me to get into my master's program. And the only thing that worked with my schedule was a veterinary social work internship at an 24-hour emergency hospital in Wilmington, North Carolina. And I was like, okay, this is great. I will learn veterinary social work and I'll just hop into hopefully marriage and family therapy, and I'll be doing private practice. And as soon as I got into the veterinary field, I fell in love. I work with every population you can imagine. I work with elders and children. I work with every population and culture that you can think of. And the journeys that I have been on with individuals and with groups have been so impactful for my work, not as a social worker, but as a human. And it's just been such a wonderful journey to be on, and it really just fell into my lap, and I've just been so grateful for it. I've been in it about 4 years now, and I can't imagine what my life would look like without it. But my role as a veterinary social worker is going to look different than other veterinary social workers because we can really be in so many different spaces. So I am at a nonprofit veterinary clinic, and I do individual therapy with our staff on mental health and well-being. The human-animal bond is embedded in everything that I do, and veterinary social work is to respect the dignity and worth of all species. So I not only work with the humans' welfare, but also the animals' welfare. So I work alongside my staff, working with clients who have to make difficult decisions for their pets, quality of life decision makings, euthanasias. We do a pet loss support group and individual pet loss. And at the clinic that I work at specifically, we have so many amazing resources. We have a pet food bank. We have grants that are able to fund entire surgeries, and it truly is a social worker's dream to work here. And it looks different in every setting. So if you're in a shelter setting, your work as a social worker is going to look maybe more community based of building programs. If you're working at private practice, then you're looking at staff well-being, individual therapy. I am lucky enough to kind of do all the micro, meso, and macro work, and it's been absolutely incredible. But veterinary social work can look so different across the different areas of animal welfare, and my journey has just been so special. And I love talking about it. I love sharing it. So I really love being in this space with you guys.
Oh, that is really special. I think our listeners are really, it's something I never even heard about before. Yeah. Lizzie found you. So it's just opened up just my own eyes. I do often, as a psychologist, I know how helpful pets are for mental health of my clients. I have witnessed it. I have my own dogs. And
I know you have even recommended clients actually get a dog.
Oh, many times. Absolutely. And I'm thinking of one in particular right now. It took a little while to really convince her to do that. And I just think it's made such a difference in reducing one of the primary kind of struggles is the loneliness, the sense of disconnection and loneliness. Part of why we even started this podcast is that is such a huge problem in our world today. And pets just do such a phenomenal, I mean, they're obviously not completely human and they don't meet all of our needs, but boy, oh boy, can they meet that need for like unconditional love that we all need as humans. And now, you're making me think about, this other aspect of it is of course how connected people are. And in MSC, we work with kind of, there's the pain of connection and the pain of disconnection. And so kind of being disconnected and even that pain of connection when your dog is ill or is dying. Okay. And here is that flip side of now feeling that pain, the grief, the loss. And how is that? How are you helping people? I'm curious about that.
Because that human animal bond is so special, and it is such a reciprocal relationship. So when we give food, shelter, and love to this animal that's in our family now, we're getting unconditional love. We're getting support. We're getting those secure bases for non-judgmental love where they're going to be with you through all of the things. All of the milestones, all of the hardships, they're with you through that. So everybody's grief journey when it comes to pet loss is very different. And pet loss is a disenfranchised grief. So it's not really widely recognized by society. There's a lot of people who will tell you like, oh, it's just a dog. Like, oh, just go get another one. But that bond is unique with each and individual animal that you have. Some people express it of like, this is my soul dog. I've had a lot of dogs, but this one was so special. And I've heard that throughout my practice. I've heard people say, I've actually cried more about my dog than I did about my own mother passing or my own family member passing. I'm like, they're like, it's crazy. I know. I'm like, you're not crazy. This is such a normal response, and it's okay to grieve the same way that we grieve a family member. So a lot of my process when it comes to maybe being in the room during a euthanasia, or if it's a pet loss support group or an individual pet loss support, a lot of it is education on the grieving process, because people sometimes come in and be like, I'm so confused why I'm so hurt. And I'm like, let's make it less confusing. This living being that you have supported their entire life has provided you with routine every morning. You wake up and you're like, maybe you didn't want to get out of bed, but your dog needs to go on a walk, it needs to go outside, and it needs to eat. That's that protective factor of like, if I don't want to get up, I know that my dog needs support. It needs me to get up. And that's where that bond comes in too, where we kind of forget that our entire routine shifts when we lose a pet. Our day looks different. Coming home looks different. I don't know. Having dogs, you guys know of when you walk in, no one is going to greet you the same way that your dog is going to greet you. No one is ever that excited. And when you walk through the door and they're not there anymore, that is a complete shift that we have to get used to. I had an individual who expressed that her dog went everywhere with her, and her dog loved sticking his head out the window. And she found that just driving now was really hard for her. And she started talking about it feels so weird. I don't know what to do. And I go through the grieving process of a pet as similar to a family member. We do a lot of education. We do a lot of normalizing and validating. And then we go into memorializing of how do we want to honor our pet? How do you want to show up? And a lot of guilt comes with pet loss because we rarely have to make that decision for another family member of euthanasia, or we didn't know something was wrong. I should have known something was wrong. But it's really hard to know when your family member can't tell you what's going on. So it's a lot of that, of going through that process, and everybody's uniquely beautiful grieving process is something that I love and honor. But it's a lot of education on it's okay. You are more than welcome to come in this space and talk to me about your pet. I would love to hear about stories. And a lot of time people just want to talk about their pet, and they don't really have the space to do that. Because as a disenfranchised grief, he hasn't normalized it. And it's definitely getting normalized as we move through society and seeing all of these societal shifts. But I think the pet loss part of my job is something that I love, and I know that sounds weird, but being able to get to be in those spaces and get to be a rock in a storm that people don't understand is really exciting for me, and it is something I hold so valuable for my work. Yeah. So, yeah.
I often work with my clients and because a belief of mine is really grief is a function of how much you love. And so, it's part of it. There's no way to truly love without experiencing grief. And I try to connect people to that feeling of love at the same time, because I think that the love that they have, and just like you said, even sharing the stories. I know when we lost our little baby Tashi, and she wasn't a baby, she was a full grown woman. Okay. But she was our little baby. And we still do it with each other, where we come across pictures and we send it to the whole family, or your Snapchats and things like that come up, Facebook history. And so it comes up, and then we're sharing it in the family, and we're sharing stories, and we tell stories about her all the time, all of her great adventures. And so that it keeps her really alive in our life. And it keeps that love alive and that connection. So I think that is so healthy, and why, in fact, this sort of just get another dog. Yes, you can get another dog, but not as a replacement, that it doesn't replace them. Mm-hmm. And really, I think that when people are facilitated to truly stay connected, you don't need a replacement because you have that connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's redefining what that relationship means now and honoring that relationship as we move through the world at this time.
Obviously, this is the Bonded podcast, so a lot of what we talk about is those secure bonds. So you use that term, secure bond. And it even made me think how secure bonds are built in human relationships. And then with a pet, of course, that some of those same things, that food and shelter and consistency and, responding to their needs. Okay. And that loving connection, that care and comfort and soothing and all of those things really build that connection between the human and pet.
No matter what the day looks like, no matter what I'm feeling, I think there was a day that I missed feeding my dog, and I didn't realize that in the morning I didn't bring his food with me. And at night, we were fine. You know what I mean? Like, we go through conflicts, and I think healthy relationships have conflict. We go through conflicts with our pet. We go through life with our pet, and we navigate difficulties. But that secure base of, I know at the end of each day, my dog is going to be right next to me where I need him to be. No matter what we've gone through, we are going to support each other. And oh my God, do I feel awful when I forget his food? Absolutely. But he still loves me, and he's not going to judge me for that one mistake, where our human relationships are like more complicated, where this one is unique and different and complicated in its own way, but we know that unconditional, non-judgmental, it's going to be there when we need him to be. And hopefully we can just make sure that we continue to build those bonds and that trust throughout our relationship. But it's just so special. It's so unique, and it's incredible.
Yeah, it's a big part of this series is really exploring how we can build secure bonds with more than human kin. And we're exploring how trees, aspects of nature, and now pets, can offer that secure base and to develop a relationship with one another that doesn't just have to be human to human to get some of our needs met and to even like learn and grow in relationship. Because like you're saying, yeah, even in a pet relationship, there can be ruptures both from the pet and from you. And and obviously, grief and changes and aging of the pet as well. The relationship changes as well.
I always like things like little light bulbs go off in my brain, and when we have these discussions, and it's making me think about, I'm sure you see this too, about relationships, like you said, are unique, that different people have, different kinds of relationships. And I think about even some of my clients I've worked with and people that I just know in my life who have pets, and how sometimes, they sort of project a lot of things onto the pet, like that the pet needs so much more than it actually really needs. And, sometimes I'm really working with my clients in really understanding that, no, actually dogs sleep a lot. Okay. They actually don't need you there all day long playing with them. Okay. That they actually require a lot of sleep, and they're good with that. Okay. And they need activity. And so sometimes people need almost that education that, yes, puppies need a lot of attention. And as time goes on, just like human babies, they need a lot of attention at birth and little. And as time goes on, they also become independent and self-sufficient, meaning they can entertain themselves. They can soothe themselves and be able to put themselves, happily put themselves to sleep. And how sometimes humans don't make that adjustment always.
I think they can be such a mirror for what a healthy relationship can look like. And at the beginning of your relationship, you're really trying to secure that bond and find that mutual trust. But as time goes on, that trust is built, and there are routines that go into play. My dog puts himself to bed all the time, and I'm like, okay, but dogs and cats and other animals also set boundaries, and the body language that they project show us like, hey, I actually don't want you to pet me right now. And we need to respect those boundaries. And it kind of allows us moments of insight of like, okay, I'm going to respect your boundary. I know that with my dog and the bond that we share, his body language tells me a lot about, okay, so we're going on a walk. Okay, we're not going on a walk. Oh, you want to go back inside? Let's go back inside. You don't want to? Okay. But it's that healthy relationship that we can learn from. And sometimes the healthiest relationship is the relationship that we have with our pet of, yes, they are independent now. Cats are super independent, but they still need us to support and care and love for them. But it helps us build those healthy relationships, the boundaries, because I feel like sometimes we forget what boundaries can look like, and it doesn't have to be verbal boundaries, but it can be physical and like emotional, and we need to be more cognizant of that throughout our life. And having boundaries with our pet is actually a really great practice. And it's just that interconnectedness of how we are so drawn to nature and living beings. It's that biophilia theory by Wilson, and it's we are connected to nature, and people's culture and lived experiences and relationship with animals are different when it comes to like how we navigate the world, and how we see those boundaries and how we see those relationships. So it's honestly so intertwined into everything that we can do. And the human-animal bond is across spectrum. So you being in private practice, you talk about the human-animal bond. Me being in veterinary social work, it's embedded in what we do. But medical social workers, therapists, family therapists, school psychologists, they can all have that like bond embedded to help shape healthy relationships and how we view our world, and kind of how we're all just really interconnected into what we're doing day to day. And it's a beautiful system, but it's so much more complex than we can ever really realize. But it's amazing that we're having these types of conversations, because I think it can get lost in all of the hustle and bustle in the world.
Yeah, it really, this conversation is going to awaken a lot of people a little bit more to just so many, those micro interactions that you've been speaking about. But I really love this idea of the boundaries and the consent that we can tune into and be mindful of in our relationship with our pets, to respect their boundaries, and then them even respecting ours when we need our different time or to do other things. And we're also exploring that with nature as well. Like when you're interacting with nature, how can you be in communication with it? And so part of this like animal human bond, that in order for us to even like, think of boundaries with our pet, is to actually to not personify them, but to value them as part of our system, or more of like an equal, rather than we're a higher animal or thing than them. So we actually are overpowering them, but that's not the case really. Is kind of the perspective shift that I see would need to happen in order for people to, one, connect with their animals in that way, and then also with nature, trees, forests as well.
Yeah. Well, because when you go into nature, there's this inherent respect of like, for me, I get so much energy when I'm in the ocean, and it's just something about like the power that it has. It really just like grounds me. And when I'm surrounded by nature, there's a respect that is there of, I'm going to make sure I'm respectful of my surroundings. And then we have like laws that really help preserve the areas that we have. And we've created systems that support the ecosystems that we're living in. And that same thing goes for the human and animal bond of respecting the boundaries that we have with our animals, and respecting the boundaries that we have with our own family members. It can really help us build secure attachments. It can help us build further regulation and resilience. It can help us build emotional foundations that we kind of forget about when we're stuck in offices all day, and when we're stuck in these environments that don't support this nature that we inherently as humans crave, because there's co-regulation that is involved in being with pets. There's lower cortisol, there's emotional benefits of being surrounded by nature and being within a proximity of an animal. That's why there's whole therapies that have animal interventions, and it's just such a beautiful process and systems that we can really implement more often. But yeah, it's so unique and different, and it's something that I've been so grateful to learn more about. And there's so much more that is out there that I need to learn. But yeah, a lot of your guys' practice and the whole shift of what nature can do for us is something that I think is so beautiful. And there's whole systems and cultures that are based upon this beautiful system of nature and healing, and it's just awesome that this too is part of that.
Oh, it's so cool. It's making me also think a lot about a big shout out to, because we're about healing as well, and it made me think of my sister-in-law and brother-in-law who always get rescue dogs, and over the years just really watching their ability to really take in these dogs who, unfortunately, in all of the cases, they tend to really take on that pet that, whether it was neglected or abused, and how they're able to take that pet in and really nurture it back into a trusting relationship. It's really beautiful. And I can't help but think how really fulfilling that must be, even for them. That, like you said, it is a reciprocal thing. And what we get, I know when I'm working with humans and working on healing with humans, and it's the same thing that they're doing with these relationships and these little beings, and it's so special. It's and just a shout out to everyone out there who has taken in a rescue or fostered. It made me think of you fostering. You guys keep taking in that sick person's dog.
Yeah.
And when he's in the hospital or whatever, you guys are the foster mom and dad, and it's adorable. How special, how important that is. And I even think about for our own dogs, because sometimes people get over kind of controlling, and how in fact it can be helpful for our pets to build relationships with other people too. Not just that one relationship.
Yeah, that's powerful. Thinking about raising a kid.
Yeah.
You don't want to just have one parent that's that secure base, but that they actually have other connections beyond just their owner. Otherwise, they might have that anxiety, or they can develop different forms of mental health things that we might recognize.
Yeah.
100%. I think that's why early socialization for pets, and specifically dogs, and my understanding, you need that early socialization, or they're going to have a lot of behavioral issues in the future, which is same goes for humans of we need to support early development in these pets so that they do have healthy relationships. And I love that the fostering that you're doing for that individual, because we've had so many people who need to get health care or need to get care for themselves but don't do it because they have a pet at home, and it actually is a deterrent of, I have no one to take care of my pet, I need to stay here. And we see that across different systems, and having those like foster parents and having you do that for that individual is such a beautiful experience that you're not only impacting the person getting the medical care that they need, but you're impacting that animal's life as well, which is really amazing.
Preventing it from having either being left or going to a boarding place, which also might be scary to some dogs too.
Hannah, you're inspiring me to, to even do a little bit more and even get even more curious, even with my clients. And I'm wondering, even for listeners, like if you have any resources or books or things like that, because I think that, like you said, there's so much to learn. But somebody who's maybe a new pet owner and would really like to have good resources on how to really build that strong bond. And some people don't know. Like, again, it makes me think of so many of my clients who really have an insecure attachment style. Okay. And there's no doubt that can start, that they can actually form that same type of relationship with the dog, like on some level that might be playing out, and how being aware of that and how they can literally have almost that relationship be a form of intentionally building secure attachment with support. Okay. Because if they don't really know, and their tendency is to maybe be more avoidant. Okay. And to push the dog away and to need more space when the dog is really young and needs connection. And so really kind of, I don't know, it just made me wonder if there's resources and support for that.
Yeah, I think education in general is never a bad thing. And I think education when it comes to pet ownership is such a beautiful thing that you can do to not only build your own self-awareness, but also help build a life that is sustainable for you and your pet. And it is that, like, pets are social lubricants. It's they're secure bases that sometimes they're that only person's support systems throughout the day. But when it comes to like building those secure and healthy relationships, there's so many resources that I would recommend of. If we're thinking about getting a pet, our Humane Society has so many, here in Jacksonville, so many resources for pet ownership, for understanding animal behavior. I think that is such a baseline of what we can learn as owners of when is my dog okay with me petting them? When is they don't want it? And it's just talking about those different types of behaviors, knowing when they're not feeling good and understanding what like veterinary medicine looks like and how it can be different across the board. Understanding what is healthy and unhealthy for your dog or cat or pet to eat. And it really is like owning a child. It's quite, there's so much education. It can be overwhelming, but to build that secure bond can be just that baseline of what are the basic needs that we have. We need shelter, we need food, we need support. Consistency is great. But also, when it comes to owning a pet, like a puppy, they sleep significant amounts. It is okay to worry. Being anxious is part of a process of owning a pet. And I also will say it's okay to not be okay when you're getting a puppy or a kitten, because it's a lot of work. It's just like they're whiny, they're bitey, it's tough. But there's so much education and so much patience that can be learned when it comes to that. Our humane societies across the state do a great job of providing so many different resources for fostering pets, for owning pets, behavior information, health information, rehoming information as well. There are actually a couple shelters that are now allowing unhoused individuals to bring their pets, which is awesome. And also some domestic violence shelters around the U.S. have been implementing housing for women and children with their pets, because that is also a deterrent. And I think if we're looking about how we can support not only our own pets, but like pets across the country, of like understanding that there are systems that can be put into place that need to be put into place, that we may need more support systems, like that housing opportunity. But there's so many resources and it can be overwhelming. And what I can do, if you guys want, I can get a list compiled and maybe I can send that to you later, and we can like share that at the end if you want.
But I know you are even like a big person that does advocate and educate, and I know you did a recent like talk or like research stuff, or that's a big part of your work and passion too. Curious what that was about.
Yeah, so I have gotten the great honor of being part of a research group. It was the first research of its kind to implement social work and animal welfare, and it's animal welfare across shelters, private practice, emergencies, nonprofits, whatever animal welfare looks like. How can social workers step into that space? And people do social work all the time without social work degrees. And it's just such a beautiful process, because if you advocate, you care, and you are compassionate and empathetic, you can like easily step into these spaces and get a role that supports animal welfare. So I've had that research that has been so amazing, and it talks about how to do individual clinical work with not only the pets and clients that come in, but with our veterinarians and technicians as well, because compassion fatigue, burnout, and moral distress are all something that we talk about daily. I've done trainings on CBT exercises to help with navigating our first initial thoughts and negative thoughts, and the first initial judgment, which is a human tendency that we do, but our first thought isn't what makes us a bad person. Our first thought allows us to feel our emotions. It's that second and third action that we are truly defining what our work looks like. So that talks a lot about moral distress and how our veterinarian teams can really go through it, and how hard their work is, and what they're doing is so impactful. And then I've been able to go and talk at other universities, at conferences, and express what veterinary social work is, because not a lot of people know about it. Every time I say it, people are like, huh? And I'm like, I know. And then once I explain it, they're like, that makes so much sense. There needs to be more. And I'm like, I 100% agree. And it's been so amazing being in this space, kind of like what I talked about earlier, of like falling into social work and falling into veterinary social work. Being in this space has allowed me to do so many incredible research-based things, university-based things. I'm hopefully getting an intern in the next couple of months. And without veterinary social work, I wouldn't have been able to do any of that. And it's been genuinely such an honor to be in this space and to learn and to grow as a clinician, a social worker, and a person, and understanding the bond has been such a life-changing thing for me, and I've just been so lucky and grateful about my whole process.
Oh, well, it has been a pleasure having you on the podcast today, and really just I can't even tell you how my brain is like lit up with so many ideas and inspiration, and I just thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you, Lizzie, for finding her, because I know listeners are going to love this. And I'm pretty certain that very few of them have heard about veterinary social work. And so you're really opening up a lot of really good stuff for the whole world, and keep on giving. We look forward to staying connected and learning from you as well. I know I definitely now know I have a lot to learn.
Yeah, and if there's any ways, I know you do some grief groups. I don't know if those are online, in person. If there's any way that you want listeners to connect with you, you're welcome to share those now, and then we can put them in the show notes too.
Yeah, so all of my veterinary support groups, it's the first Wednesday of every month. It is online, virtual, so anybody in Florida would be able to have that resource. And I would love to share you those links too. Our individual pet loss is also in person and online. So if you're in Jacksonville and you need some extra support, I would gladly and love to talk with you about whatever you need. And I just really am thankful for you guys for providing this space. I think your podcast is so lovely, and any excuse to talk about veterinary social work and spread the word of what we do and how it can impact individuals, systems, and families is always an honor. So I appreciate you guys having me.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. If it spoke to you, it'll probably speak to someone you love too. Share it with a friend and leave us a 5-star review to help spread the message it's never too late to heal.